Thank you for joining us today on 10 Minutes with the Artist, an episodic series that explores the art practice and the personal vision that guides artists. On today's episode, we're very proud to have Josh Barduson, who exhibited recent works from his series Homosexual North Dakota at the Memorial Union Gallery at North Dakota State University. Homosexual North Dakota recontextualizes a sense of place to make room for the LGBTQIA community that often feels isolated, overlooked, or unwelcome in the conservative Midwest. The images in these photo documentary works feel lonely and bleak, but the simple fact that love and life persist may offer viewers a hint of hope in the barren spaces that make up homosexual North Dakota. I'm Anthony Faris, and this is 10 Minutes with the Artist. So Josh, thank you so very much for joining us today on 10 Minutes with the Artist. I was wondering what the difference is between love being public versus private.
For me, I would say that the idea of love being public is something where you can show the person that you're with that you care about them, and it's that public display of affection that kind of shows that there's like this confidence within the relationship that you can do these sort of things out in public and you don't have to worry about how anybody else around you is going to act or how anybody within the relationship is going to act, whereas the loving in private is much more not only intimate but transcends that worrying about things. So there's definitely a need for both within a relationship, I feel, just because the loving publicly is something much more expressing that love, I guess, so that way other people can see that like you exist and that love is there, whereas the private is much more for just you and that one other person.
So when we're looking at your body of work as almost a narrative, is there a progression that sort of speaks to that public-private, or does it speak to something else?
I think in my series, I tried my best to try to discuss both a love being displayed publicly and privately. In my images, I have like the hunched over bodies as they're holding hands and walking through the streets with their hoods up, and if you look closely, there's like a white car standing in between the two figures, kind of looking as like an onlooker, like they've stopped and they've taken a time to like look at them. And I wanted that to be something that people realize who maybe don't see PDA from gay relationships all that often, that a lot of times they're maybe what they might think of as a quick glance is actually like a hard stare, and then it makes everybody else feel uncomfortable because I wouldn't know which way they're, whether it's something that's they're just not sure of, like what I'm doing, or if they're just taking a quick glance, or if it's something like they want to hurt me, or what the case might be. It's really hard to read that sort of situation, and I just wanted that to be like one of the commentaries made, and then the loving privately, I had like the cuddles, like the cuddling image with the two people in the bed, sharing a much more intimate time, and showing how important that is, that these people get that time to be able to be by themselves, and they don't have to worry about the possibility of them being judged or hurt or anything for that matter, for the fact that they are gay.
Okay. Does the fact that your work appears to be like documents and appears to be real instead of being staged images, does that help your viewers connect with the work, you think?
I would like to hope so. I think that was when I had first started the series, I tried both a more heavy-handed staged feel and a more natural feel, and the heavy-handed staged feel of like setting up an image made me feel like I was kind of trying to preach this message, whereas a more subtle, much less staged feel made I found the responses were that the viewer was able to actually like think about the message that I was trying to say and how it relates to them. So it seems like this is more of like an everyday thing, like a real life, like these people exist kind of feeling to the pieces, and that's what I was going for with the entire series from the beginning. Was that I wanted people to realize that gay people exist, and we're here just the same as everybody else, and we try and act the same, I guess, as everybody else. We try to like fit in with these ideas of social norms that we have set up, because we don't really want to be too separated from the rest of the crowd, just for like safety's sake. And I think that that's something that's really important to discuss too, is just that how much do we as gay people have to fit in order to be accepted.
Okay. Is working in this sort of highly conceptual, metaphorical way necessary for you to create this body of work?
I think that my message could have been received if I was taking a much more literal approach, as like if I was to just go out and like photograph people existing, like gay people existing in the world, and just doing like portraits of them in different various places, like showing that they exist. And that idea had crossed my mind just because it would be maybe not necessarily easier, but it wouldn't require me to put as much thought into the metaphors that I was trying to establish. But I think that in order to make people really take the time to think about their actions and how they maybe treat gay people, I had to set up a metaphor that made them think about the metaphor itself, and then how do they fit into the puzzle that is this metaphor that's there in front of them.
Okay. Yeah. The title is very strong, but it's also like kind of endearing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a place on the map, you know? And I was wondering if you could talk about this idea about place or even placelessness.
Sure. The title took a while for me to come up with. I wanted something that was going to discuss this community that is so important to not only myself, but so many other gay people here in Fargo, and not just Fargo, North Dakota in general. From what I've gathered from just not only my experiences, but from interviewing with other people, is that a lot of times we don't have the strongest home that we can go to discuss things that are happening to us. And this community that we establish amongst ourselves is this place to discuss things that are happening to us, where we can go and talk about things that aren't like, I don't know how to describe it, but I think that the place and the idea of like homosexual North Dakota as being this place is like furthering the idea of like there's this community that we exist, and we're trying to expand further so that way we can be more recognizable, I guess. And I think that was what my thought process was behind trying to create this title, was I was trying to find something that discussed the community and furthered that metaphor that I was trying to make throughout this, which was that we exist and we're here and we're in this place together with the straight people around us.
Yeah. Well, it becomes really powerful, and not only does it speak to place, but it also replaces place in a way, and it takes ownership from that, and I think that's a really integral part of understanding the work. So at the very end of the conversation, we like to ask a few questions about your creative practice.
Sure.
Okay. So what time of day do you feel like you're most creative?
Normally when it's like inopportune to me to actually go out and photograph, I have to write down a lot of my ideas, because a lot of the times when my ideas come to me, it's more of like late at night when there's just like no light for me to work with where I could like make images. Throughout most of this process was a lot of me like staying up late at night, and I had like a journal that I just kept like writing down like what would be a good, like writing down like my metaphor list, like what do I think would be a strong metaphor? What do I think would maybe benefit from another metaphor that I tried to use earlier? Like what could I steal from that and create a stronger metaphor later? I think that it was mostly, late at night, like 12 o'clock in the morning, just like not able to sleep because I'm still trying to think about how I can make the series better.
Yeah. Do you listen to music or anything like that when you're making work?
Yeah, I spend a lot of my time when I was driving out west. I made like a playlist ahead of time, and it was mostly just it was the entirety of the Moonlight soundtrack, which was amazing, and it helped me think about how I myself am a gay person and trying to exist, whereas that's similar to the story of Moonlight, where he was trying to navigate himself, and so it helped me kind of transport myself into that headspace. But to be honest, most of the time when I'm like editing and working on the photos, not necessarily taking the photos, I spend my time listening to podcasts, trying to think about the metaphors that they're talking about and how they relate to the metaphors that I'm trying to create myself.
Are you reading anything right now?
I've been trying to read, it's like a LGBT history, more or less. It's called A Straight State. And it just talks about the how gay people were treated right during like the immigration boom, and how we were seen as even lesser than a lot of the immigrants that were coming over. A lot of people had to have like fake relationships set up. There was like a lot of different companies, I guess, more or less, that would hire out women to get men into the country that were gay, and they would like pretend to be their wives until they could get into the country. So it's been it's kind of it's very interesting, but it's at the same time it can get kind of dry because it's just so much logistics and things like that. So it's been something I've been working on throughout the entire semester.
Yeah. And if you had to use any other medium besides the ones that you're using right now, what do you think that you would use?
I think I would probably go back to painting. Painting was something that I was very interested in before I found my love for photography. I think that my series, I don't know if it would benefit as much if I was to do something that was with painting rather than photography. I think if I was to redo it in painting, it would have to be something completely different. But if I was to do another medium, it would definitely be painting. I feel like that's what I have the most confidence in other than photography, and it's something that I've always admired. Like, strong paintings are always something that I'm drawn to.
Okay. And I guess my last question for you would be, what's next?
Well, I'm debating grad school. I'm also trying to set up an LGBT art committee, I guess, for lack of better words, here in North Dakota. We're in the very preliminary stages where we're just trying to see how many people would be interested in something like this, and then trying to set up podcasts and interviews, YouTube videos similar to that kind of extent, just something that we can do that maybe won't cost a ton of money, but still something that we can show that we exist, because within working in this series, I've realized that while I might not be doing what I would like to do as far as protesting goes, simply just existing as a gay person in North Dakota is protesting.
Okay. Well, good luck, and thank you so very much, Josh, for joining us today on 10 Minutes with the Artist. And I'd like to thank you all for your time and your interest in the creative explorations happening here at North Dakota State University. So thank you, and for everyone here at the Memorial Union Gallery, keep creative.